Yeah, so we started the Jeevan Vidya and Jeevan's activities and meaning, because the meaning of the Jeevan are the activities performed.
Then happens
Never happened.
Now it has again, like it's come, your voice comes and then in between there's blank, then again I can hear you when you said never.
we should sit
Okay.
further apart or closer.
No, let me share it.
Both. And then we have to hear and
Go down and listen.
let's see if it even helps. Does this help? When I'm talking like this
Hmm.
in a flow. It's okay?
Mhm.
Okay, let's try this. And when we play this, I'll give the earphone because I'm not speaking that time. All right. So the activities of the Jeevan are in 5 parts, and each part has an activity which is a state and a corresponding motion. So since there are 5 parts and each part has a state and a motion activity, there are 10 activities of the Jeevan. And it said, so the first part is called the man. So there is the man, vritti, chit, buddhi, atma, and the names we've roughly translated in English are the mind, the disposition. I can't remember the letter. Let me open the thing. The mind, disposition, I think vision. Yeah, the mind, disposition, vision, intellect, and soul. These are the 5 parts. Now, the mind, we started out with describing, what it does is it is constantly selecting and tasting. Now, it is tasting, it is selecting in the hope for tasting. So all its selections are to taste, and to taste it is performing the selection also. These are the 2 activities, and this um, selection in the hope for tasting, that itself is, with the expectation of tasting, that itself is called hope. So what is it doing overall? These 2 things together, what are they doing? They're hoping. So similarly, the next vritti or disposition, the next level, is weighing and analyzing. And in weighing and analysis, what happens is thought. That's what we call thought. Then the layer above that, the part above that, is vision or chit. It is contemplating, well, it should be contemplating and visualizing. So there's contemplation, visualization, and both of these together makes desire. Then intellect. The intellect comprehends, and so there is comprehension and determination. So it is bodh or sankalp. Determination in that sense, like resolve. I'm determined that. And together it leads to truthfulness. I think we haven't done the 4 means actually. And the soul, the one which is the innermost part of the Jeevan, the soul experiences an evidence. And together this is basically authenticity. So this is what we had covered. I think that's all we had covered up to now.
I mean, could this whole thing be said with an example of one thing? Say,
Yeah.
then it will be very clear. But if you don't want to do it now, we can do it at the end of the class.
Right. Actually, that reminds me, because any example that we take, it will have to be taken in the realm that we are right now. So that reminds me what else has been covered. So Jeevan can be found in 2 ways. It can be delusion or it can be awakened. And so this delusion Jeevan is a Jeevan which is functioning in only 4.5 activities actually. The other activities remain sort of working, but there's nothing for it to work on. So it's not really awake. All those 5.5 activities are not awake. Whereas in the awakened Jeevan, all 10 activities are awake and functioning. That's the difference between an awakened Jeevan and delusions Jeevan. So delusions Jeevans are Jeevans who have not understood existence, understood the Jeevan and understood human conduct.
मूल्यांकन को उभय तृप्ति को पहचानने की आवश्यकता है। इसी विधि से समझदारी को विकसित करने की आवश्यकता है। कुल मिला के नहीं।
Right. This is just to give the context again that for orderliness, as we have already discussed, we have not been able to live in orderliness based on fear and temptation. And in order to live in orderliness, we need to recognize values and evaluation and mutual fulfillment through values and evaluation. So that needs to be recognized, that needs to be studied, and that needs to be evident.
अभी प्रस्तुत प्रसंग यही है जीवन का स्वरूप। जीवन ऐसे देखा गया है मन, वृत्ति, चित्त, बुद्धि कार्य रूप है, चयन और आस्वादन। वृत्ति का दो कार्य रूप है, तुलन और विश्लेषण। चित्त का दो स्वरूप, दो कार्य रूप है, चिंतन और चित्रण। और बुद्धि का दो कार्य रूप है, बोध और संकल्प। और आत्मा का दो कार्य रूप है, अनुभव और प्रामाणिकता। ये 10 क्रिया के रूप में तो हर जीवन में और हर प्रत्येक व्यक्ति के जीवन में सतत कार्यरत जीवन ये 10 क्रियाएं करने के लिए उद्यत है। ये 10 क्रियाएं करते हुए भ्रम, निर्भ्रम, भ्रम और जागृति के रूप में प्रमाणित होना पाया जाता है। भ्रमित होने के स्वरूप को भी देखा गया है और जागृत होने के स्वरूप को भी देखा गया, भले प्रकार से देखा गया है और समझा गया है। उसी को समझाने की ये प्रयास कार्य है। तो भ्रमित अवस्था में जीवन क्या करता है, कितना करता है, कार्यरत रहता है, और जागृत अवस्था में कैसे रहता है। जागृत अवस्था में अनुभव मूलक विधि से पूरा जीवन कार्यरत होता है और भ्रमित अवस्था में संवेदनशीलता से अनुप्राणित रहता है और जीवन के केवल जो 10 क्रियाएं बताए उसमें से 4.5 क्रियाएं क्रियारत रहते हैं, बाकी जागृत रहते नहीं हैं। क्रियारत रहते हुए उनके लिए जो
when it is so this Jeevan is found in 2 states, either it is delusion or it is awakened. So this awakened is also non-delusion state. And when the Jeevan is awakened, it functions in an experience-rooted way. All its activities are happening in an experience-rooted way, Anubhav Moolak Vidhi se. And when it is functioning, when it is delusion, all its activities are happening on the basis of sensitivity. And we were just discussing this actually yesterday, that sensitivity is, samvedanshilta is basically our ability to sense using our sense organs. So the highest form of sensitivity that we see in humans, we also say, no, you're sensitive and she's such a sensitive person and how sensitive are you? It's because what we are seeing is that this person is able to sense even the subtle changes that occur in one's body based on one's emotions. Because those are very subtle changes and you're even able to sense those. So when someone is able to sense that someone is sad based on just the subtle changes that are happening in the body of the other person because of their sadness, then we say that that person is sensitive. But that is still the limit of, that is still within the ambit of sensitivity. So that's what he's saying. Before being awakened, we are functioning within sensitivity. And so while all 10 activities are active, they are not awakened. So those 5.5 activities are not really awakened. And that's what needs to be awakened.
जो बाकी भागों को समझाने की वस्तु नहीं रहती है, इसी कारण से अंतर्विरोध जीवन में बना रहता है।
So because it remains unawakened because there is no content for those parts to actually function. बाकी भागों को समझाने की वस्तु नहीं रहती. So there is no content for explanation in the other part, because you'll see all the other parts are regarding understanding, but there is no content for them. So what is the even? Is it better if I'm just closer? Does it
I
still sound okay?
Let's try
Oh.
that. I was thinking.
Oh.
इसको भले प्रकार से देखा गया है. तो वो 4.5 क्रियाएं ये है चयन आस्वादन, ये संवेदनशीलता के आधार पर होता ही है, जिसको आप हम जानते ही हैं.
So this has been seen very thoroughly by me. Now, what are these? Now, these 4.5 activities that are functional in a delusion human. What are these? They are this selection and tasting, which happen on the basis of sensitivity. So all of us have seen this.
और हाथ पैर नाक कान के लिए अच्छा लगने वाले वस्तु को हम अपनाते हैं और बाकी कुछ खराब लगने वाली चीज को छोड़ देते हैं. इसको संवेदनशीलता के आधार पर हम शुरुआत कर देते हैं.
See, Manjuji, what you asked for, he's already doing. So he's saying, so the selection and tasting happens on the basis of sensitivity. In that, whatever pleases our heart, pair, kan, naak, all our sense organs, our ears, eyes, nose, touch, we accept those, and those that do not please us, we reject it. That's happening on the basis of sensitivity.
संवेदनशीलता के पक्ष में ही आज तुलन नाम की क्रिया वृत्ति से करता है प्रेरित लाभ के रूप में. ये एक क्रिया है.
And it is in favor of this sensitivity itself that the Jeevan performs this other activity called weighing in terms of preference, health, and profit. So it's weighing across preferences, weighing across health, beneficial or unbeneficial, and it's weighing across profit, profitable or unprofitable. All three of these sorts of weighing are in favor of sensitivity. So
से करता है प्रेरित लाभ के रूप में. ये एक क्रिया है और इसी के अर्थ में विश्लेषण हम कर लेते हैं. तो हमको ये संवेदनशीलता में ही जीना है. ये तो इसके लिए तो बहुत सारा दस्तावेज भी तैयार हो चुके हैं.
And so this weighing is one activity, and it is in terms of this weighing that we also analyze. We also do analysis. That I want to live in terms of this preference, health, and profit. And regarding this, we have prepared so many documents as well.
So if you become super sensitive, like the top of the scale, it still won't be awakened, right? Because even if you can sense everything that's happening and understand it based on that, it won't be enough.
You haven't understood that.
You just sense it.
You just
but
sense.
You don't know what to do. So what is analysis then?
So analysis is it's a thought process. It's not understanding. We've got a lot of inputs in our senses. And when we look at them, we separate them and say, oh, this is what I observed this, I observed this, and this. That will be the highest form of analysis.
It's like distinguishing between different things, yeah?
Yeah. If you think about it as a science, when you're in the lab or you're in the field and you make observations. So, you've collected a whole lot of data, but then you look at all the data, spread it out, what all you have with you. So all this analysis happens. Vishlesham analysis means to separate everything and see all the components.
आप लोग सब जानते हैं. सारा दस्तावेज भी तैयार हो चुके हैं. आप लोग सब जानते हैं. इसी पक्ष में जो चित्रण क्रिया को भी संपादित कर लेते हैं.
So all our analysis also occur are conducted in terms of our preference, health, and process, such as what the example that is, you'll analyze and think through that I want to live in terms of sensitivity. And we have several documents that have been prepared, which we all are aware of. Now the third, another activity that happens is called visualization.
इसी पक्ष में जो चित्रण क्रिया को भी संपादित कर लेते हैं, जैसा मकान बनाना, कपड़ा बनाना, यंत्र बनाना, ये सब चीज को चित्रित कर लेते हैं। चित्रित करके हम अपने कुल मिलाकर के इंद्रिय संवेदना के अर्थ में अथवा इंद्रिय संवेदना को ही जीवन मानते हुए हम जीने के लिए तत्पर हो गए हैं।
So our visualizations are also in favor of this sensitivity itself. So we come up with all sorts of, actually, I didn't hear everything. All kalpana is our imagination, basically.
चित्रित
Notions,
करके हम
ideas.
अपने चित्रण क्रिया को भी संपादित कर लेते हैं, जैसा मकान बनाना, कपड़ा बनाना। ये तो इसके लिए तो बहुत सारा दस्तावेज भी तैयार हो चुके हैं, आप लोग सब जानते हैं। इसी पक्ष में जो चित्रण क्रिया को भी संपादित कर लेते हैं, जैसा मकान बनाना, कपड़ा बनाना, यंत्र बनाना, ये सब चीज को चित्रित कर लेते हैं।
How did I miss it again? So, sorry.
इसी पक्ष में जो चित्रण क्रिया को भी संपादित कर लेते हैं, जैसा मकान बनाना, कपड़ा बनाना, यंत्र बनाना, ये सब चीज को चित्रित कर लेते हैं। चित्रित
So we also, direct our visualization activity also in favor of this sensitivity. So for instance, making clothes or making houses or making food, all of that visualization and ideas and imaginations that we come up with are all for this sensitivity.
करके हम अपने कुल मिलाकर के इंद्रिय संवेदना के अर्थ में अथवा इंद्रिय संवेदना को ही जीवन मानते हुए हम जीने के लिए तत्पर हो।
So we, whenever we come up with these visualizations for making food and clothes and buildings, it is for our sensory pleasures, indriya samvedana period, and it's for these sensory pleasures because we believe these sensory pleasures themselves to be the Jeevan, and that is why we dedicate our visualization capacity also activity also just for these sensory pleasures.
हो गए हैं। इसी का नाम है भ्रमित जीवन। इसका अंतर्विरोध होता ही रहता है, ये ठीक है, बे ठीक है, वो ज्यादा है, कम है, इस प्रकार की सारा संकट मनुष्य के सामने रखा ही रहता है। ये पहले
And this is called the delusion Jeevan. And within such a delusion Jeevan, there is a constant, a continuous occurrence of contradiction. This is better, that is good. This is not so good. This is too much. This is too little. All of these contradictions are constantly playing out.
है, कम है, इस प्रकार की सारा संकट मनुष्य के सामने रखा ही रहता है।
Such and all such dilemmas are present in front of all humans.
ये पहले भी रहा है, अभी भी रहा है। तो वस्तुएं ज्यादा हो गई, कम हो गई, यही हो सकता है, किंतु मानसिकता तो उतने ही ज्यादा कम, बड़ा छोटा और विद्वान मूर्ख और जो धनी निर्धनी, इस प्रकार की दूरियां आदि का।
And this was present earlier and is present today as well. It's only the objects that have increased. It's only our resources that have increased. But the mentality has remained the same. It has remained unchanged. The same, being too much, too little, big, small, rich, poor, intellectual and plain, foolish. Yeah. All of these differences have still continued to
पूरक
remain.
और जो धनी निर्धनी इस प्रकार की दूरियां आदिकाल से ही रही है, अभी भी वो चीज है।
So such differences have existed since time immemorial, and they continue to exist today.
मानसिकता आदि मानव का ही है, ये चार क्रिया में। ये मानव मानसिकता के लिए और जो 5.5 क्रियाएं हैं वो जागृत होने की आवश्यकता है।
So this mentality is still of the early human, of the early man, and that is within these 4.5 activities. In order to be awakened, in order to become an awakened human and have an awakened human mentality, we need to awaken these 5.5 activities as well.
वो समझदारी से ही जागृत होता है। जो समझदारी का बात आपको ये इंगित कराने की कोशिश किया था, तो
and that gets awakened only through understanding. And what is this understanding? I had tried to indicate to you.
पहचानने निर्वाह करने के लिए ये 4.5 क्रियाएं पर्याप्त है, इसी से मनुष्य जीता भी है। ये पशु जैसा जीने के लिए पर्याप्त है, मानव जैसा जीने के लिए पर्याप्त नहीं हुई, यही संकट है।
I had tried to indicate to you that for recognition and response, these 4.5 activities are sufficient. They are sufficient to live as animals, but they are not sufficient to live as humans. So this, I think both of you were not present, I think, when we discussed this, that there are these 4 processes: knowing, believing, knowing, believing, recognition, and response. And all entities in existence are constantly performing the recognition and response, but humans need to know and believe, and only then can they really recognize and respond properly. So I think to continue living as animals, you only need the 4.5 activities, and that allows you to recognize and respond. But to live as a human, that is part of the knowledge order, you need to also do other stuff.
पर्याप्त है, मानव जैसा जीने के लिए पर्याप्त नहीं हुई, यही संकट है। मानव होते हुए जीव जैसा जीवों के सदृश जीना बनता नहीं है, उससे संतुष्टि पाना संभव नहीं है। ये तो सब बहुत सारे गवाहियां गुजर चुकी हैं, सबके सामने गुजर चुकी है। ऐसा
So it suffices for living as animals, but these 4.5 activities don't suffice to live as humans. And while being human, to live as an animal never feels satisfying, and it's never something else he says. It is not. It are unable to actually continue living like animals, and such problems that we have faced from such dissatisfaction, all of that has all of those have already passed and present in front of our eyes.
उनके सदृश जीना बनता नहीं है, उससे संतुष्टि पाना संभव नहीं है। ये तो सब बहुत सारे गवाहियां गुजर चुकी हैं, सबके सामने गुजर चुकी है।
Right. So the fact that we cannot feel satisfied while living as animals, there are several testimonies to this fact, and we've all come across the testimonies.
ऐसा मेरा सोचना है, और भी गवाहियां चाहते तो शोध भी किया जा सकता है।
If you require more testimonies to this, then there's always room for doing more research.
अब जो मूल मुद्दा 10 क्रियाएं जीवन में संपादित होते हैं, वो सारे क्रियाओं को व्यवहार में प्रमाणित करना ही जागृति है।
Now, the main point is that 10 activities are functional in the Jeevan, and evidencing all 10 of these activities in our behavior is awakening.
उसमें से केवल थोड़े भाग को जागृत बने प्रमाणित करना जागृति नहीं होती है। जैसा उसको एक छोटा सा मैंने अपने में ही देखने वाली बात सोचें।
Evidencing only a few of them in our behavior is not awakening. evidencing just a small part of these 10 activities is not awakening. So, for instance, there's an example we can take that we can see within ourselves as well.
जैसा शरीर स्वस्थ है तो पांचों ज्ञानेंद्रिय, पांचों कर्मेंद्रिय अपने आप में सटीक एक दूसरे के तालमेल से काम करते रहते हैं.
Very interesting because we've defined what being healthy is. So, for instance, the body is healthy. Being healthy means all 5 of our sense organs and all 5 of our karmendriya, that's another concept, active organs for action are healthy, are functional, and are exact, and are functioning in harmony with each other. So our sense organs and our organs of action.
Organs of action is like heart, liver, those things or no?
No. Things that we exercise our will through. So like our limbs, can't remember all 5, and different sphincters that we have control over.
इसको देखते हैं, इस सटीक एक दूसरे के तालमेल से काम करते रहते हैं. इसको देखते हैं. इसमें से
Look at that.
पैर काम नहीं करता हो, हाथ नहीं काम करता हो, बाकी 3 काम करता हो तो उसको लूला लंगड़ा ही कहेंगे. तो वो
Let's take an analogy. Of these, if the foot doesn't work and one arm doesn't work and all the other 3 are functioning, so we will not call it a healthy person. We will call them disabled only.
स्वस्थ आदमी कहा नहीं जा सकता है.
Can't
इसी
call
प्रकार
them.
जीवन में जो 10 क्रियाएं हैं, ये नित्य वर्तमान है, नित्य क्रियाशील हैं. इन 10 क्रियाएं वर्तमान में प्रमाणित होना, यही.
In this way, the Jeevan has 10 activities. These are eternally present. These are eternally active and
नित्य क्रियाशील हैं. इन 10 क्रियाएं वर्तमान में प्रमाणित होना, ये.
and all 10 of these need to be evidenced in the present.
यही कुल मिलाकर के जागृति का मतलब है.
This is the meaning of awakening altogether.
जागृति तब तक नहीं हो सकती जब तक जानने मानने वाली क्रिया को हम पहचानने निर्वाह करने के साथ साथ जोड़ नहीं पाएंगे.
Awakening cannot happen until we become capable of adding this activity of knowing and believing to this process of recognition.
Linking or something.
Yeah, linking knowing and believing to recognition.
हम अभी तक जो है पहचानने निर्वाह करने की विधि से हम ये 4.5 क्रिया को हम प्रमाणित कर दिया है. मानव परंपरा जब बच्चे पैदा होते हैं और बचपन से ही ये 4.5 क्रिया की ओर हैं, वो बुढ़ापा भी वहीं तक पहुंच करके अंत हो जाता है.
On the basis of these 4.5 activities, we have been able to evidence simply recognition and response within this human tradition. Ever since the child is born, they are performing these, and even when they grow old, we end up being limited to performing just these and then pass away.
4.5 क्रिया की ओर हैं, वो बुढ़ापा भी वहीं तक पहुंच करके अंत हो जाता है.
So even in childhood, we're performing 4.5 activities, and till old as well, we are limited to just the 4.5. And
यही मानव का, सर्वमानव का पराभव का आधार है. आगे क्रियाएं यदि व्यवहार में प्रमाणित होती हैं, वही जागृति का आधार है.
And this is the very basis for the downfall of humankind. And if the other 5.5 activities become evident, that will be the basis for awakening.
वो जानने मानने की विधि से ही होगी.
Which will happen only by way of knowing and believing.
जानने की तृप्ति बिंदु को पाने की विधि से होगी। पहचानने निर्वाह करने के क्रम में मानव तृप्ति बिंदु को पाता नहीं, का आधार है वो जानने मानने की विधि से ही होगी। जानने मानने की तृप्ति बिंदु को पाने की विधि से होगी।
Right. It will happen only by way of knowing and believing, by way of finding the point of fulfillment of knowing and believing. So not just any random knowing and believing. There's a point of fulfillment in which both knowing feels like, I have all that I want to know, I'm believing or I'm believing or accepting. I've accepted all that I need to find. There will be such a point of acceptance. That is the way we will reach the way.
And recognize the
Paicha-
real way.
Yeah. I think when we reach that point of awakening, then we will be able to recognize and respond appropriately.
जानने मानने की तृप्ति बिंदु को पाने की विधि से होगी। पहचानने निर्वाह करने के क्रम में मानव तृप्ति बिंदु को पाता नहीं।
In the process of recognition and response, humans don't find any sort of place of fulfillment. And we're just recognizing it.
और जो अन्य संसार जो पहचानने निर्वाह करने के क्रम में कैसे रहता है, नियमित रहता है, नियम के अनुसार काम करता है।
And the rest of the world, how does it perform? How does it function within simply recognition and response? It is able to function because it is lawful. It functions according to law.
नियंत्रित रहता है, ठीक है, संतुलित रहता है।
So it functions according to laws, and therefore it remains regulated, all right, and it remains balanced. You have three important terms: law, regulation, and balance.
इस विधि से व्यवस्था है, समझदारी की विधि से व्यवस्था नहीं है।
In this way, there is an order in the rest of the world. It is not an order based on understanding. It is not an order by way of understanding.
ये बात आप हमको एक रेखाकरण की विधि से समझ में आना है। ये इसी को समझने में अभी तक अपन बहुत सारा परेशान, से व्यवस्था नहीं है।
रेखा,
ये बात आप हमको एक रेखाकरण की विधि से समझ में आना है। ये इसी को समझने में अभी तक अपन बहुत सारा परेशान थे। सही
so this is the point which you must understand as a sort of rekhakaran. I think it means like a boundary, as a boundary between the rest of the world and you.
Like a defining line.
Defining line. So the rest of the world is in order because it is in order by way of laws, regulation, and balance, and not by way of understanding human life.
है।
And it is because we haven't been able to understand this fact of difference. That is why we have faced so many troubles.
ये इसी को समझने में अभी तक अपन बहुत सारा परेशान थे। सही गलती का आधार यही है। तो हम समझ गए हैं, जान लिया है, मान लिया है, तृप्ति बिंदु पा गया है, तभी हम जो माने पूर्णतः हम प्रमाणित 10 क्रियाओं का प्रमाणित करने योग्य हो पाते हैं।
So it is in understanding this that we have actually faced a lot of difficulties. And now by me he's saying basically now we have understood it, accepted it, believed it, and found the point of fulfillment of this understanding and acceptance.
यह है तृप्ति बिंदु पा गया है, तभी हम जो माने पूर्णतः हम प्रमाणित 10 क्रियाओं का प्रमाणित करने योग्य हो पाते हैं, अन्यथा हम हो ही नहीं पाते हैं।
And that is why we have become capable of evidencing all 10 activities in their entirety. Else we will not be able to evidence all 10.
इसको ऐतिहासिक विधि से भी शोध किया जा सकता है, यह रुका हुआ यही है।
this can also be explored or inquired into from a historical lens. That this has been our major stumbling block.
ये एक बहुत ही मार्मिक बिंदु है। इस पर सभी मेधावियों का ध्यान जाना चाहिए, ऐसा मेरा मैंने एक प्रकार से विनय है।
This is a very important. Marmik is like very like essential, yeah, at the root, at the center, at the core. This is a very core issue, and every thoughtful intellectual should pay attention to this, or their attention should be drawn to this. And this is my request. Oh, Vinay, request?
Drishta, I have to leave now. I have a meeting at 7:30. I'll watch. You can continue for another 2 minutes. I think you want to end this now somewhere.
I think
Then-
this is a good point actually to pause at also 7:30. There's also a good sort of point to start again. So then we can
I'll ask you something once you pause and pause and ask.
sorry? Manjari? What do you say? Couldn't hear you.
Should I ask you something?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Recording is off. No, we finished today's session, right?
Oh, should I turn off the recording? I haven't turned that off.
Okay.